Değerli konuklar, Uluslararası Kenan Rifai Sempozyumuna.
Dear guests, we're continuing with International Kenan Rifai Symposium. The issue of being balanced is like going through the bridge of Sirat. The Kenan Rifai gives examples about that. One is about feeling the pity and how can we cast an emotional balance on that issue. The answer is the mercy is one of the attributes of God, and feeling pity is from mercy. Feel pity, but do not complain. For us dervishes, the complaint is absurd. When you see someone in need, someone disabled by the side of the road, you shouldn't ask, you shouldn't complain what was the sin of that person that he is in that shape. So you help him. Having the complaint is complaining from the work of God, the work of Allah. So we should not put together, we should not mix up the pity and the mercy. So let's start the session. The chair of this session is going to be Erhan, Yetik, and one of our participants here today is Ercan Alkan. It's going to be evaluation of the book Ahmed er-Rifâî regarding the literature of Tasawwuf history. And the other participant is going to be Eylül Yalçınkaya, Kenan Rifai's commentary on Masnawi. Please, we invite you to the stage.
Oturuma geçmeden önce yine kısa bir film izleyeceğiz. Türkan teyze. Çok önemli. Türkan teyze anlat.
We're going to have a short film again. It is important to see those who saw. So we'll have two ends and we'll listen to them.
Öyle bir şey ki oraya gittin mi, kendi huzuruna çıktın mı, ne anan, ne baban, ne kardeş, hiçbir şey, her şey gözünden siliniyor. Hiçbir şey siliniyor. Sadece o cemal, Allah'ın o.
What you see, what you face is the beauty of Allah when you go there. It's not possible to be in love with that beauty on the face of what you see. So this is what I wanted all the way. That is to say, it's a unique experience. When you do pilgrimage, you have certain feelings, you experience certain feelings. We have similar feelings there, and you just the sight of everything is gone. It's just Allah, and not being able to be worthy of that certain place, not complying altogether with the great Murshid. This is the pain. Again, one day we were at the summer house at the mansion of Nebat Hanım, and there were jasmines. The mansion was just in the middle of jasmines, and I visited the place, and I entered the house. There was Neziha Abla and Samiha Anne, and there was someone else too. But I was asking myself questions that I have not been able to follow the path perfectly, and I was feeling some kind of an inferiority feeling. And they had a childhood photo which hangs on the wall, and they looked at it, and Samiha Turkan thought I was born with a beard. I've been a child, he said, and this created a comfort in me, and so this was a response to what I felt. That was the first of Muharram, and he used to be very sad on that day. He's a person of joy, but on that day he was sad on that day, and he used to wear in humbler ways. He would manifest sorrow. It was the 13th of Muharram, and one of my family members had a wedding at the terrace, and I had come to go there, and he asked a question, and I answered, and he said, didn't they find any other day to do a wedding because it was the Muharram? And we didn't know what Muharram meant, actually. I didn't even know how to do my prayers. And out of the Melami tradition, I had given up on the prayer as well, so I didn't know how to do my prayers. I wasn't practicing it, and I didn't know what the first or second of Muharram meant. And we saw everything in him with all the manners. And everyone had a duty to carry out there. And he took the coffee. He was offered coffee, and they also put his cigarette on his mouth, and there was a lighter, and he said, okay, give the lighter to her, that I want her to light my cigarette. And Guzita said he wanted you to light the cigarette, and I said, of course, sir. And I stood up, and I took the lighter, and I lit the cigarette, and I looked at the right and left. There was no coffee table to put the remaining part of the match, and I put it in my hand because there was nothing else. There was no place to put it, so I put it in my hand, and the burning match didn't burn my hand. And he smiled at me, and he said, okay, it's gonna burn all the way, and he said, this is the way you go to the Dargah of Allah. And I said I would buy a present. There are two stores. There's a store run by Alijan, and I went to his place one day and told him that, okay, I want to buy a present, but I don't have much money, but I want it to be meaningful because it's going to go to a meaningful person. And he said, oh, Azizanam, just look at the shelves. I'll also make you a discount. And I saw a glass heart, and there's a green parrot in the middle of the glass. And I asked, how much is it? And he said 4 liras. And maybe 4 pennies. I want it to be wrapped, and I want it to be wrapped well because it was going to go to an important place. and I went to Istanbul. I gave them to Behice, Mother Behice, and one of them is specially for my master's, and I visited to his room, and he said, "Oh, daughter, we're moving out to Altıntepe in Bostancı, so I want you to visit me there." And I left the gifts there, and I went to that place Wednesday, and he was waiting upstairs, and they told me he was waiting for me, and I went upstairs and kissed his hands and sat down. As I was sitting, I wasn't able to look at his face directly. I would always bow my head down and look down. And he said, "Oh, my daughter Aziza, the parrot is also doing the dhikr." And then I realized he had put my parrot, glass parrot, the present that I had bought, by the side of the glass. And he said, "Oh, Aziza, your parrot is doing the dhikr." Then I realized he had put the parrot there. And he didn't say anything and just moved his head. And the parrot started doing the dhikr. I was shocked. That stable parrot started moving, and he said, "I am a human, and this is a glass parrot. With one spiritual sign, it starts doing the dhikr." And I started weeping. And he said, okay, daughter, just so this is our case. And a glass parrot started doing the dhikr, and I saw it with my own eyes.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Böylesine güzel insan.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Putting us together with such beautiful people, bringing us together on such good grounds, I thank our Creator indefinitely. And salat is to our Prophet, whose love fills our heart. So this is how I start my words, and I salute you all with love and respect and sincerity.
Böyle bir girişle 6. oturum.
So wishing it to be useful, I'm opening the 6th session. With your permission, I want to open a parenthesis here about the flyer of Symposium. Our daughter here who designed and prepared the flyer was introduced yesterday, but no detail was given. I want to share the details with you now. In the art of calligraphy, there are different istifs. You write from right to left, from left to right, and you realize a good picture ahead of you, in front of you. And this daughter of us created a good piece of art in this regard specifically. When you read it from right to left, it says the door of mercy. No need to indicate that. And when you read it from left to right, it says Kenan Rifai. This, when you put together these two openings, this design points at the door of mercy, and it gives us the address of the door of mercy as Kenan Rifai.
Bu alkışlar tabii ki hanım kızımızadır.
The applause go to her, and I'd like to congratulate her. So I'd like to start this session. The first speaker is going to be Ercan Alkan. His speech is going to be about evaluation of the book Ahmed al-Rifai regarding the literature of Tasawwuf history. Dear friends of the heart, as you know, in the literature of Tasawwuf, the peers, the leading figures of tariqats, the founders of tariqat, there are important works about them, and this is important in the tradition of Tasawwuf because they build not only the tariqat but the thought system in it. So on the pieces, on the works about them are important in this regard. And these works of literature, they're not just bibliographic works, but they are at the same time they introduce the founder of tariqah, they introduce his teaching. So this is why these books are important. So they are the books to keep by the side always. The presenter here, Ercan Alkan, is going to talk about the peer Sayyid Ahmed Rifai's life and his life stories, and then a book written by Kenan Rifai called Sayyid Ahmed Rifai. He's going to analyze the book out of its content and sources used in the book. So I'd like to underline here, this book is important about both theoretical and practical tasawwuf, and he's going to underline that. He's going to focus on that. You see this book at the outside, and the book gives theoretical information about tasawwuf and how to implement the tasawwuf in our daily life. So this is an important guide. This is what I want to repeat now. And he's going to give the details. And just before giving the word to its owner, I'd like to thank someone. And that person is who prepared this important work. A great academic of Tasawwuf, Professor Mustafa Tahralı. I congratulate him for this work and simplifying the book and making it more digestible, more understandable. There is another academic of Tasawwuf, Professor Mehmet Demirci. I'd like to thank him too. And I'd like to thank those who contribute, Selçuk Ereli. And with these efforts of them, this masterpiece is now ready to use and learn from. I'm not going to exploit your patience more. The word is yours, Ercan Bey.
Aslında hocam her şeyi söyledi. Ben biraz detaylandıracağım.
Actually, our chairman has said everything, and there is not much left for me to say. I would like to thank to Mr. Mehmet Demirci and Mustafa Tahtalı. We have been in the same room with Mr. Tahtalı, and I have benefited highly from him. And there is much of his contribution I would like to mention as well.
Eylül'le de konuştuk. O sizi biraz rahatlatacak şey.
And we have talked with Eylül. She's probably going to tell you much nicer things to relax you. Mine can be a bit boring, so excuse me for that in advance. I'm going to talk about a lot of names and dates, and it's mostly literature. I will have three legs to my presentation. We will have a biography of one of the Tasawwuf
masters, why would the life of a mutasawwuf becomes valuable, precious? And then I will talk about the literature written on er-Rifâî. This is a literature of 7 centuries. About 50 pieces of work exists, and finally I will talk about the Sayyid Ahmed er-Rifâî book that Kenan Rifai has written, which will talk more about the murshid quality of Kenan Rifai. Mostly the murshid quality of Kenan Rifai Hazretleri was talked about here. We will talk more about his authorship, quality of him as a writer. Why do you write a book? There is a saying in Attar's Tezkiretül Evliya, and Attar says, the words of the tariqat peers are the most important words once the Quran is put aside. This is from Tespitül Evliya. He says their words are not of memorizing, and it is the result of amal and hal. So this is what their words are imbibed from. It's not by repetition, it's by mystery. It's not by known knowledge, but it is from the secret knowledge. It's not from listening, it's from ecstasy. It's not learned from the ancestors, it is from the universe of God's training. And Attar gives that degree of the words, and he also has some subjective statements in assessing these words. He says that there are more spiritual benefits of the words of Sufis for the reader. It's not about reading or writing a chronological lineup of the life of a spiritual Sufi. He is more focused in the personal journey of the wayfarer. And the book has arrived. Let me show you the book. That is the book that we are talking about. This is a very important cover, the cover of this book. The symbolism is also explained within the book. The cover symbolism, maybe most of you have it. I've spent a month, I have worked for a month on this book, and I benefited from it highly. I would like to thank our hojas, our masters again. Attar uses 2 Sufis, incorporates 2 questions posed to 2 Sufi masters. The first of these is directed to Ebu Ali Dekkak, and he says, is there any benefit to listening to a Sufi master? And the response is, of course, there are 2 benefits. First of all, if the listener is a pursuer, talib, his or her aspiration, the himmet gets stronger and her claim rises. Secondly, if that person sees selfhood in herself, then breaks this pride and breaks the selfhood. So we have a transformation, a cure for our selfhood. You get rid of that selfhood with the word of the Sufism, and what is good and what is bad is known, is shown to her. And if the person is not blind, then she observes herself by this way. That is what Ebu Ali Dekkak says. The second question is asked to Junaid Baghdadi. What is the benefit of stories and narratives, lesson-giving stories and warriors about Sufis for the disciple, for the murid? And Baghdadi says the words of the Sufis are a soldier from the army of God Almighty. So that soldier is beneficial to that wayfarer. Attar also gives a degree to Kalam. Kalamullah, Kalam Resulullah, and Kalam Rijalullah. So Allah's word, Rasul's word, and spiritual guide's word are in a hierarchical order. So the words of the Velis, Kalam Rijalullah, are in third degree. So the words of the spiritual guides are open for commoners or the elites or for everyone. So in the spiritual journey, in spiritual wayfare, a certain amount of these works that compiles their states and words must be read as a daily, consistent pray in order to travel over some stages, because it has an effect on the person who reads it. Because Attar says, when you recite the Salih ones, then there is serenity for the hearts. So the history of the writings of Tasawwuf, for reasons mentioned by Attar and the Alex, witnesses a gigantic literature compiling the states and the words of the masters of the Sufism. The works, there are the monastery journals, and there are important people like Ibn Arabi's Zunni Misri's monography, or the peers of the tariqats compile some of those. Ahmed er-Rifâî is one of the peers that had most number of historical and literature sources. I will talk about the works of Ahmed er-Rifâî so that we can see the process, what has happened up until we come to this person. There are about 40-50 pieces of work that I could detect. Only 2 of them I will talk about. One of them is Ahmed written after 10 years. Ahmed er-Rifâî has passed away. The person who writes this is Rafi, not Rufai, but Rafi, an alim, a scholar. He is mostly known by his contributions to the Shafi literature. Imam Ghazali, Rafi, and Imam Nevi has contributed highly in Shafi literature, has a work called Vejiz, and Rafi stands in between, is an important name. And this person writing a biography for Ahmed er-Rifâî, being one of the ulema, one of the scholars, is quite interesting. But we see that the Tasawwuf aspect of this man is not known too well. Only one PhD paper, dissertation paper, has him as a topic. And there is a Menkıbe as well. He mentions the name of the book is Sevadul Aynayn, and the Menkıbe is as follows. Abdurrahim ibn al-Bademi wants him to write this, and before that demand is brought to him, the writer of the book, Rafi, was already thinking about writing something about Ahmed er-Rifâî. So he's really surprised with this demand. And at early days of Rajab month, he starts to write menakib, and he thinks that he will be done by it by the end of Recep. But since it's the 3 holy months and he wants to spend his time with prayer, he kind of postpones and procrastinates. And then a week later than that, he dreams of Ahmed er-Rifâî. And Ahmed er-Rifâî Hazretleri in his dream tells him, loyalty in muhabbet increases the aspiration, himma. So I thought a little bit about it, and there are 2 meanings to the word himma. One of them is a more of a tasawwufi meaning, which means the help, support of the sheikh to the murid, and the first one seems to suit it.
Muhabbetinde sadık isem ben sana himmetimle yetişeceğim.
And the other one is the effort. The effort is of course important, but loyalty to muhabbet is very important as well, he understands. So he takes the message and starts with the morning prayer and is done shortly. I want to tell a bit about the content of the work. And it is about the it tells about the Ahmed er-Rifai's ancestor reaching to Hazret Prophet and the goodness of his generation. Ahmed er-Rifai's ancestors coming to Iraq, Basra, and dwelling that place as home. Birth of Ahmed er-Rifai in 512. Hoja and sheikhs of him from whom he learned the knowledge of manifest and the knowledge of the hidden knowledge, his Gnostic activities, the sermon and knowledge meetings managed by him, and the incident of kissing Hazreti Prophet's hand in Medina in 555, and names of the people who were with him there, some of his keramets, the reason for finding reputation with the nickname of Eb'ul Alamain, announcing with good news of him by Hazret Prophet in a dream of his uncle Mansur el-Bataihi 40 days before his birth, and being taken of him to Sheikh Aliyul Qari al-Wasiti for his spiritual manners by command of Prophet. Also, our first writer was a faqih himself, but he is a scholar of hadith, and he knows the material sciences, the visible sciences, ilm-i zahir, and there is an intellectual circle around Rifai, is what we understand from this. The other book is Gayetut Tahrir. The purpose of writing this book is considering and correcting the claims about the ancestors of Ahmed er-Rifai, claiming that he was not a Sayyid. So in the foreword he says, it is bad to defamate people, to stigmatize people, let alone the people who are friends of God. So the reason he has written this is because he wants to show that his lineage, his pedigree, goes way back to Hazreti Muhammad. So the pedigree and lineage of Ahmed er-Rifai is clearly explained in detail, and also he talks about Ahmed er-Rifai's obey to Hazret Prophet's sunnah, the incident of getting Hazreti Prophet's hand out of his tomb, and Ahmed er-Rifai's kissing Hazreti Prophet's hand, the names of the people who witnessed this incident and their narratives about happening, and the characteristics of Ahmed er-Rifai tariqa. And I think one important thing about Tasawwuf history is that his tariqa is on Junayd Baghdadi's tariqa and follows their path and They are on the same natural disposition. And in respect to their contents, there are certain comparisons that I want to talk about. These two works, among those other works, about 50 pieces of work, create the groundwork for all the following works. And if we go to the Kenan Rifai's era in the late 19th century and early 20th century, there are four menakibs for Ahmed er-Rifai. One is by Hocazade Ahmed Hilmi, one is by Hafız Nuri, and the other one is Kutsizade Kadri. And Kenan Rifai's is more expensive than the other ones. Kutsizade Kadri's contribution must be mentioned here because he's an important Ottoman bureaucrat in the time of Abdülhamid II, and he translates El-Burhanül Müeyyed, El-Mecalis, and Rahikul Kevser, and he has contributed highly with his translations. Also, he was around Ebul Huda Es-Sayyadi. He was a really well-known name, and we understand that there was a Rifai circle in the Ottoman bureaucracy around Abdülhamid II. Ebul Huda, who is the Sheikh of Kutsizade Kadri, is mostly known for his political activities, and the researchers also know him for that quality and is interested in that aspect of his personality. His contribution, Ebul Huda's contribution, is that he made all the previous literature accessible to the people of his time, and there are a couple of important publishing centers, Istanbul, Beirut, and Cairo, and in all of these three publishers, in 1880 to 1908, there are more than 200 pieces of work written about the Rifai Tariqa. So if you consider the publishing history of the Ottomans, having 200 pieces of work published in late 1880s, early 1900s is quite a matter. This shows not only the charisma of the author, but also the impact of the Rifai movement in the Ottoman land. Ebul Huda mostly wrote things compiling 700 worth of literature and transferring to the next generations. The content that had been compiled and transferred to next generations contain rendition of state and the warriors of Ahmed er-Rifai, compilation of his works and words, evaluation of his Tasawwuf views, the main rules of Rifai Tariqa, the detailed history and biography of the featured persons, and also Ebul Huda has another work talks about the kissing hand incident in Medina of Hazreti Prophet. This is told in a separate book, which is quite voluminous, of 300 pages. And with this keramet, whatever is in that literature, he writes a book about this. And we mention Ebul Huda specifically here because his book Kladetül Cevahir is very important. Ebul Huda says that his book is unique in every way, and he seems that there is no book to compare, and he seems to be right on that, and this must be the reason that this book takes place among the main sources of Kenan Rifai's related work. In order to show the place and the value of Hazret Ahmed er-Rifâî in the chain of spiritual authority of Veli, the writer calls the book Kiladetul Cevahir, which means a valuable jewelry on the necklace or a pendant, the gem, main stone of a pendant. That's what the name of the book is. In the prelude, he tells us certain qualities of Ahmed er-Rifâî, and so that it will be baraka. The qualities that he calls for is the unique Gauss, the only chosen select Kutb, the Imam of the ones who reached Haq, the Sir of Gnostics, the crown of the leader of Qutbs, the admitted of foremost of the dignifieds, owner of two pennants, the one who is drinking the glass of pleasure, and the sheikh without the sheikh, and also kissing the hand of Hazret Prophets in his Hajj, the harbor of the shiftless and the weak, master of foremost of those who see with the eye of certainty, sheikh of Islam and Muslims, and the harbor of perfect humans. The book contains 10 main parts about Ahmed er-Rifâî's ancestors, his birth, growing up, and some important incidents that took place during this time, manner and spiritual state, keramets, samples from his life, his words and views, and Ahmed er-Rifâî's praise and his salawat, his sheikh and sluk, well-known people from his tariqa. Also, he talks about the tombs of Gnostics and Zahids in Baghdad, and rendition of state of Ebu Süleyman, Davud bin Nasr et-Tayi el-Kufi, Cüneyd Bağdadi, Abdülkadir Geylani, Ibrahim ed-Desuki, and Ebu Necip Abdülkadir es-Suhreverdi. The work ends by 3 qasidas, praising Hazreti Prophet and Ahmed er-Rifâî, and one for himself. Now I would like to talk about the relationship between Kenan er-Rifâî's works and his work named Seyyid Ahmed er-Rifâî. This work is Seyyid Ahmed er-Rifâî in 1924. This is the most expensive piece of work, and printed by the publishing home. The writer's identity is written as Ummi Kenan Hankah-ı Şerifi Seccade Nişini ve Maarif Nezareti Celilesi Terakkiyat-ı İlmiye Encümeni Azasından Kenan er-Rifâî. So he's a member of the Ministry of Education, and also there are 4 resources for this book. One of them is the Kiladetül Cevahir and Kitab-ı Seyir vel Mesai, written by Ibrahim Efendi from the Bağdat Rifai Lodge. And let's talk a bit about this Kitab-ı Seyir. Kitab-ı Seyir is generally brings together the evrads, the words that he has read, and also talks about the discourses and talks and discussions in the Rifai Tariqa. I would like to talk about the parts of this book as well. The first part about ancestor, family, birth. Second part is becoming affiliated with the Tariqa and his suluk. Third part is manners, state and behaviors. Fourth part is meetings, questions asked him during these meetings and his sagely answers to these questions. Fifth part, important people from his family and well-known people who were in his meetings. Sixth part, manners and discipline in suluk and Tariqa. Seventh part, conversations, stages of suluk, zikr, riyazat and khalwat. Eighth part, ceremonies in Rifai Tariqa. Ninth part, nicknames of Ahmed er-Rifâî. 10th part, some poems of Ahmed er-Rifâî. 11th part, branches of Rifai Tariqa. 12th part, Iman poems of Kenan Rifai. 13th part, Kenan Rifai is becoming affiliated with the Tariqa. 14th part, 52 words and hizbs belonging to Ahmed er-Rifai. So this actually takes the backbone of the two books and brings together a text that is a translation and compilation. And you can see it in the printed symposium book. Also, the most remarkable examples of compiling translation style is observed in transferring of the matter in Ottoman Tasawwuf literature, saying, I will read you a word from it. People of realization tell us the Tariq is about the illuminated heart. That wayfarer, the disciple, also is a wayfarer of divine path, and that is you. And the goal to this path and to this search is also finding yourself, which is also you. So to be on the path and to go further is to go over yourself. That means to go beyond over yourself. So coming and arriving means coming to you without you. Knowing means to know the truth and to grasp it. To find means to be witness and to see it with the visible eye clearly. And from being what we mean is to get rid of duality and to be in union and to be in union without dismissal. So rejoicing these, the pursuer demands himself or herself in the existence of an absolute murshid, so leaves his own, her own will, and without questioning leaves his or her being to the hands of the murshid, as if a dead person is left to the hands of the ghassal, the washer of the dead. So this includes translation as well as some other new topics. The topics mentioned here gives us the main roots of Ahmed er-Rifai's Tariqa and his main topics. Even though there are similar anecdotes and stories told, this is within the framework of the conceptual backbone of this work. So there are things that Ahmed er-Rifai is being portrayed with. As much as a biographical text enables the author, he talked about the practical issues with the words and thoughts of the person that is told. So the main topics can be classified as follows. I put them under 9 main items. The first is definition of Tasawwuf and the etymology of the word Sufi. The second one is the Zahir and Batin, Sharia and Hakika, the Tariqa and the Hakika, and the comments on Quran being Zahir or Batin. 3 is about some states and degrees of Tasawwuf. The fourth one is about the Kurbiyet. And 5 is about quality of Velayet. 6 is about the common one. Hallaj Mansur comments on Enel Hak by Hallaj Mansur, and Sufi is not a being by Ebu El Hasan Harakani. The topic of Sema, that is widely discussed previously as well as it is being expansively discussed here. 8 is about the adab and some manners and matters about the initiation to a tariqa as the meaning of tariqa, and 9 is about the history of tariqa, the masters of 3 tariqas which reached to Rifai, Imam Shazeli, Ibrahim ad-Desuki, and Ahmed al-Bedevi. Of course, these classifications are are not as diverse as we mentioned above, but they are compiled, they are brought together. It will be much more beneficial if they are read with a thematic approach. So we have done a lot of reading. What is the benefit out of all of that reading? In short, if we were to summarize it, in this book and in the resource text of this book, the meaning of the we can say that in this book the fine details of the Tasawwuf morals has been embodied in the personality of Ahmed er-Rifâî, and the doctrinal issues of Tasawwuf has been mentioned in the words of Ahmed er-Rifâî, and the practices of the tariqa had been visible in the attitudes and actions of Ahmed er-Rifâî. Thank you very much. We would like to thank to Mr. Ercan. It could have been only elaborated this well, but since it includes lots of technical information, how did you react to that? I wouldn't know. He was unable to transfer everything to you. Thank you so much, and when it is published, God willing, we shall all be able to benefit more from it. And for you to get a better understanding of the book, I would like to share the quotations from the book. Sayyid Ahmed Rifai Hazretleri in this book has made certain statements. The closest way to haq is through following the sunnat of Hazreti Muhammad, and the beneficial knowledge must be shared with other people, and the perfected human being is the one who has the good manners, good morals. So amal and mezheb and good manners is more important than the pedigree, and be with Allah so that you can be with yourself, and whose advice does not work for himself is not gonna work for anyone else. He said also the haram food is an obstacle to answering the prayers, and the tariqas are a heritage from the ancestors. But if you think it's all about a heritage from the ancestors and it's all about the cloak and cloth, then you are deceived, he says. So about the practice of Rifai Tariqa, we are informed it is a major resource, indispensable piece of work that one can benefit, is what we are going to say to wrap up the subject. Our second speaker is Eylül Yalçınkaya, and she will talk about the qualities of the commentary Mesnevî. And I would like to say a couple of things. The Mesnevî commentaries are a quite important resource in the Islamic Cherchi tradition, and it's as important as the books and translations. They served a lot, and there are things that are written about the certain styles, and they are specific to a certain group of people. But the Mesnevî commentaries were for the commons and for the whole of humanity. So this is how we need to look at this issue. These commentaries, when we studied these commentaries, in some commentaries, the explanations of grammar is explained, and it is pretty difficult to correlate it with the text. Some of the commentaries are difficult, and some of the commentaries are partial by their mezheb and meshreb, so only a limited number of people could benefit from them. And also in certain commentaries, the Mesnevî verses mystery has not been touched upon. It was only a raw translation approach. Also, with the commentaries, Ismail Ankarevi commentary is an example to that. The very dense, the very methodological and very heavy style makes it impossible for the reader to benefit from it. And when we explore the other commentaries, we can see examples of that sort of approaches. So about the Mesnevî commentaries, an update and revision is required, is what we observe. So with that need, to meet that need, to answer to that need, the commentary of Mesnevî Şerif that we're talking about now is pretty significant, I believe. So Kenan Rifai Hazretleri verbally and improvisingly between 1908 and 1925, in the spiritual atmosphere of a holy lodge, has shared it with the people who participated there, hoping to benefit from his discourse. It was a discourse and lesson combination. And the disciples and students of him compiled and collected these works. Thus we are able to access to that commentary. And now I give the word to our second speaker, Miss Eylül Yalçınkaya.
Erhan Bey, öncelikle ben Ercan'a duyuluyor mu? Öncelikle ben Ercan'a açtığı konuşmasından dolayı çok teşekkür ederim.
I'd like to thank Ercan for his talk full of love. Kenan Rifai says, Tarika doesn't mean that coming to tekke and saying who, it means knowing Allah, knowing your humanity. Just like this, I have been asking this question, how can Tasawwuf be taught in academies? I think Tasawwuf in academies, just like in Tarika not being only saying only who, it is actually to really contemplate on the text that we have been reading, and in order to really listen to these texts as if we are listening to the ezan, the call for prayer, and perhaps think about them for years and years. And that's why I'd like to thank Ercan Bey for his encouragement of such knowledge full of love. Now, this is a story like when Eylül was 15 years ago, a young graduate from the Faculty of Theology, who's experiencing her first years of teaching, a big box of various written material, manuscripts, was handed in her trembling and clumsy hands by her teacher Cemal Nursargut. Well, these manuscripts was actually a notebook of commentaries of Tasawwuf texts written by either Kenan Rifai's handwriting or written by his students. Among them were commentary of Rumi's Mesnevî and Divan-ı Kebir explanations of verses and hadiths, and anonymous risalets about various Sufi concepts. Now, after years, I found an opportunity to work on this notebook that contains commentary of the third volume of Mesnevî as my graduate thesis. So briefly, the study was an analysis, an amendment, and a translation of the text from the Ottoman language into contemporary Turkish. Amendment part may be described as finding the verses and hadiths in the text, identifying time, place, people, and resource as such. This is actually a very comprehensive study, because in the past such a study was carried out with a very big group of people consisting of historians, writers, the first volume of Mesnevî. But with the encouragement, with the hikmah that my teacher Cemal Nur has transmitted on me, and I would also like to thank Mustafa Tahralı for his contributions. I have attempted to do something, but in reality, within this box, I have seen so many different other handwritten texts that belong to the other volumes of Mesnevî. There were text notes that belong to all the other volumes of Mesnevî. Perhaps a PhD student on her own may not be able to handle all these texts together. So perhaps the institute, the academic Tasawwuf institutes may actually work on this, and a group of academicians may end up having a thesis on this. Of course, as far as my Tasawwuf thesis has allowed, I try to actually find out where. So this, I can summarize it as long as my thesis has allowed me to do. Kenan Rifai's Mesnevî, Şerhs, commentaries, manuscripts, and giving information about this, and some important things that have attracted my attention while analyzing this. When I first analyzed this, when I actually looked at the text from the knowledge that I had then, now I see that the knowledge I have now is a little bit different, so the way I approach is a little bit different. Kenan Rifai's, since the texts have got no amendment, no revision, and it's original as in his words, and I can now see much better how he himself actually analyzes and lectures these Mesnevîs. So this is actually also perhaps sufficient for the time being to answer some of the questions. Once I was lecturing Mesnevî, not from the teacher's desk, but on the niche from the essence of the essence. Now, one day a Mevlevi sheikh who visited the dergah objected and said, "What kind of Mesnevî lessons are you giving? Mesnevî is to be taught in Persian." Then I knew Persian as much as I learned from the school, but after this incident, with the favor and the kindness of Allah, I started to tell Mesnevî both in Persian and with its original fashion. So as you have very rightfully said, looking into the words, the roots of the words is very helpful. During period In the Altah Dergah, there was spiritual discourse and Mesnevî courses once a week in Fatih, and these lessons were noted and written by his close students. It was read from its original text, translated, and lectured by Kenan Rifai. The text that İsmail Ankara Rusuhi used in the Mesnevî commentary was being used, and the collection of these lecture notes that contained tales from various volumes was published by Kazım Büyükaksoy, and then we actually have witnessed the first volume that was published in 1970. So what I'd like to say is this Mesnevî Şerh, I would like to say again that from the first volume till the end of the sixth volume, Şerh has been completely done once, and when it is actually done the second time, unfortunately it has to be over because of the banishment of the dervish lodges, the tekkes in Turkey. So among the people we had Samiha, Ayverdi, Cemiha, Cemal, Nazlı Hanımefendi, Server, Hilmi, Kazım Büyükaksoy, who were fortunate enough to follow his lessons, also coming from the close circles and from the family. So after the banishment, the discourse was actually amongst the close family circle. So Meşgure Anne also told me that all the notes that he had written down was actually handed over to herself. That's what I've heard from Meşgure Anne saying. So some of them are now given to me from Cemal Nur Hoca's and Meşgure Anne's libraries, but some other notes are actually now in the precious family members of Kenan Rifai. One of them is actually been sent to our association Türkat as a gift by one of the elderly coming from the family. Inshallah they will all be analyzed, because even only in one volume of Mesnevî, as my teachers have very rightfully said, so many insights have been gained, and inshallah from the other volumes we will be having the same blessing. The third volume, which is second notebook, is the one that I have analyzed. It consists of 202 pages. It was very legible. Of course, I had some difficulties, but with my teachers' contributions and assistance, I was able to figure out. But there are, there were some words that I couldn't figure out. And then the second draft, it is probably the second draft. I mean, somebody has rewritten it from the observations I've made. There are 125 lessons, and it starts with stories and ends with a story where a sheikh doesn't cry after his son's death. I think there are some parts missing, and the person who takes the notes were probably absent during the sohbet. So he actually and we can understand that Kenan Rifai is so competent in Arabic and Persian, and that there is no need for editing in the manuscript when I saw. So the way they heard from Kenan Rifai could very easily be transmitted onto the page, and it was a language was used very fitting to the period, and some expressions actually made me think that it was so natural, so flowing, that the text was actually, one may think that the text is originally in Turkish. So anything that is variable in its nature, be it a state, pleasure, beauty, or proficiency, cannot be considered as true beauty itself. So this is actually a very beautiful, a very natural language. And sometimes Latin, French, and he also used some Albanian expressions. So he uses so many enriched language, and while reading the text it gives us an idea on how broad his world of thought was. So this gives us a chance to realize the nature of highly qualified circle in terms of readiness and perceptiveness of the knowledge discussed. So come to my presence. Don't come to my presence with the knowledge that you would like to hear from the street scholars. Come to me with learned knowledge. So that's why when we analyze his text, we actually have to have this background knowledge. Perhaps we should read text together, because what is challenging for me is that an academician being so lonely. So if we have group work, teamwork, I'm sure it will be more beneficial, so that we can actually benefit from these texts much more. So the themes that have been mentioned are zikr, patience, fakr, poverty. These are related to beautiful conduct, mürşid, edip, good manners, and also the layers of creation from Ibn Arabi teaching related to oneness of being, conceptions about oneness of being. Especially what attracted me was, of course, I analyzed all these concepts, but the most attractive one for me is the issue of methodology, as well as actually the issue of humanity, human. So what is human nature? Why does human exist in this universe? So, I mean, the texts were as if an anthropologist was actually analyzing. So that was very impressive. So the field of anthropology can also benefit from this a lot, which is a good tiding for so many anthropologists. And the original of the notebook, some words are so actually the words that he has used, the style, his style is very important, because he himself is dealing with the text, so we are dealing with his commentary text, so we have to actually analyze the techniques and the styles that he himself is using as he approaches the text. So that's an important thing. So we have to really pinpoint his significance, his place as a Mesnevî commentator. So I would like to actually mention the style, as well as my teacher over here very righteously mentioned. It's not very classic. Do you think it's a classic commentator, the way he is?
So he did not ignore the classic, he reads the text, he explains and gives the global meaning, the külli meaning, and also he uses other qualities, using other resources as well, and benefits from other resources as well. And he comments on certain verses one by one, and some of them are explained more globally. Also, he is concerned with the outcome, and with one way it is a classical method and style, and on the other hand we could only call it a unique approach. I would like to thank to my master, to my hoja. I was like a little puppy in front of the gates of Harvard. I have seen what kind of methods do the Westerners develop. James Morris here deserve a big thank you. He taught me how to read closely. They were very, very special times, but we oversee the close reading, the deep reading. We only just say this person has overall meant to say this. We're more general. But Kenan Rifai doing this with a close reading at the very end sentence, he uses a tawhidi, a unionistic approach. So from a close reading to a far reading, he compiles all of the knowledge that has been transferred to his times. He excludes none of them and brings them all in. And what I've learned from my Hoja is to be between exclusion and metaphor. And so it is very clear of him to say, I have a nearsighted and a far-sighted approach, and this is better to express his methodology, and this will show us how much of a different commentary he uses, because every murshid is known. Murshid means knowledge. Murshid means knowledge, and they said that you had to hold on to their cloak. Yes, we did hold on to their cloaks, but also they carried them, they outburst like a volcano, and we love the bursting words out of them. We read them, we hear them, we cry, and they are a reason for us for knowledge, but there's going to be an end to their words as well. So we have to reveal, we have to disclose their method of science and knowledge so that we can actually come to a point of understanding how do they deal with a certain problem and issue, how do they line up the other issues. That is the way we need to adopt, so that we do not only see them as a personality who has lived in the past and has left students and ideas and opinions to us, so that we can live them and revive them. Thank you.
Bu alkışlardan sonra bir şey söylemeye de gerek yok.
There is no need to say anything after this round of applause with a really flowing style. She transferred her presentation, but maybe something about the method was unclear, which I want to clarify myself. Ankaravi Hazretleri is known as Hazreti Şerhi, which means in our past it means the sheikh of commentators, the sherh makers, the sharih. So because of this timeless work, he's been entitled as the Hazreti Şerhi. So whoever was going to be licensed a certificate for commentating on Mesnevî, he was seen as the jury on how to do this eloquently in the Ankaravi style, and he was the juror of that, and it was his discretion to decide.
beni tan.
Eylül'ü iyi ki hocam kedi yavrusu gibi götürüp koymuş ağırtının önüne. Teşekkür ediyoruz Eylül'e. Bir öğle aramız. Elinizdeki broşürlerde 14 diye.
Thank you very much. We have a lunch break now. We're gonna be back 14:15. Thank you.
Allah